Hi, everybody. This is Kate Haley with Glazer's Camera. Happy weekend. We are in our third day of Photofest 2021. There's a major delay.
What delay?
Okay. So sorry, I had a little audio hiccup on my end there. So thanks for joining us. We're super excited to kick our day off here with a Nikon ambassador, Audrey Woulard. I love her portrait photography. It's super, super beautiful. And we're going to get going here. And if you have any questions during the session, going to get going. Please feel free to post those in the comments on the YouTube channel, and we'll do a little Q&A throughout the session. We have Joel and Paul on the line with us today, who are also from Nikon. They're going to be hanging out in the Zoom session and may also be in the YouTube channel with us. So if you have those questions, you might find those guys posting answers there as well. Once we go live again with the presentation, just get those questions posted. We'll do as many Q&A as we can towards the end of the session. All right, Audrey, I'd love to get started here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you guys? Thanks so much for having me.
We're super excited. We're very excited. Like I said, I love your portrait photography. It's just stunning. So really looking forward to hearing about your work and your process and your flow. So I'm going to kick it off to you, and let's get going.
Let's get going. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen with everybody. Give me 1 second. And I think we are good to go. So great. So again, thanks so much for you guys, having me here. You guys are up early this morning, so appreciate all of you guys. So we are going to talk about from inspiration to intent, or from intent to inspiration, and do what I like to call photo deconstruction, because, when we are viewing other people's images, sometimes the questions that we have don't really answer how the image was created. And what we are thinking ahead of time sometimes takes a bit more, takes precedence from, we get caught up in like the technology, and more importantly, kind of like camera settings and things like that. So I want to like break all of that down, with the goal being hopefully opening your eyes to how to see things differently before you create your image. So give you a quick rundown about who I am. I am a portrait photographer based out of Chicago, and I specialize in teens and senior photography. And I know that can be a bit geographic related, but with senior work, it's basically, for those who do not know, is when you photograph a teenager when they are graduating from high school. So it's sort of like a rite of passage photo session. I have been a professional full-time photographer for the last 17 years, started off as a family and baby photographer. And then as my business grew, I started specializing in teens and tweens and seniors. So that is 100% of my work, with a little sprinkle of commercial stuff here and there, but that's pretty much who I am. And I am also a Nikon ambassador. And I think that's pretty much all of the things. I sometimes hate talking about me, guys, but where can you find me? My Instagram is Kids and the City. And I also have a Facebook group geared towards photographers. That is AW Teaches. And then I also have a website that is geared towards photographers, and that is awteaches.com. So I like to keep that nice and simple. So let's jump into it. What is a style? And I find that photographers, especially, when you're really getting serious about it, you can go, I don't like to necessarily say all over the place, but I'm going to say all over the place, because we've all been there. But really honing into who you are tends to create consistency. And consistency really is attractive to other people who are viewing your work. Now, that consistency can, whatever you want to, specialize in: kids, babies, weddings, models, dogs, landscapes, it doesn't matter. But the way you approach a scene and the way you capture an image will be consistent when you have a style. So I like to use myself kind of like as a case study because it's easier to talk about myself because I know what I've been through. But when it comes down to other people, you tend to have to guess. So I'm really going to kind of break that down. But a style of photography is something that you can do consistently, regardless of who you're photographing, regardless of where you are, regardless what type of lighting you use, natural light, strobes, inside, outside, none of it matters because it will all be consistent because the intent will always remain the same. And that's what we're really going to hone in on. And for all of you who are listening, if you do, have, questions about, really what's your style? How can you find it? How do you know, what you're going to do, what you're not going to do? Please ask those questions and, I'll definitely get those answered. Now, before we get started, every time I do these presentations, if people want to know the technical stuff, and yes, throw those in the comment section and we'll definitely get those answered. But I'm going to tell you all of the images that I am going to show you guys today were either captured with 3 cameras, a Nikon Z7, no, 4 cameras, I lied. Nikon Z7, Nikon Z6, Nikon Z7 II, and a Nikon D810. So those are going to be the 4 cameras that I use throughout this presentation. But I'm going to use one lens the entire time. That is an 85 millimeter 1.4 G lens. From there, the one little piece that people always ask me, I'm going to, all of the images you're going to see are captured with an f1.6 aperture. So keep all of those things in mind, but if you forget, throw it in the comment section and we'll get all of that answered. So what I want to show you now are some images that I captured of the same person with about a good, but I would say a good decade in between them. Maybe, I'm being generous. I would say a good 7 to 8 years. And the reason that I want to show you guys this is so that you can see how the style is the same, although the image is different from, how I may change my composition, how I may look at lighting, but the style is still there. And remember, it's the intent that has never changed, although my work has grown as a photographer. So this is a little girl here at 8 years old, one of my longtime clients, and here she is now at almost 17. So again, I'm just going to give you guys just a real, just good rundown so that you can really see, what that looks like, that progression, but understanding that the style is still the same. So I'm going to point something out. Just look at this particular image here. She is 2. The next image I'm going to show you, she is now 16. But there was something about her that she always tilted her head to the side. See that? I'm capturing the same, style. And it will always look like my work, regardless if certain things have changed, because my intent has never changed. And when I say certain things have changed, I guess I'm talking about, lighting and things like that. And we all grow every year, or every month, every day as photographers. We're always consistently learning, regardless of how, long we've been in the game. We are always students every single time. So photographing with intent means you have to have a vision of an outcome before you snap the shutter. And again, as I mentioned before, things will change, and always allow yourself permission to change as you're photographing. And that's one thing I really want you guys to understand, that it's okay to change. It's okay to change your mind. It's okay to experiment. I do that a lot on pain shoots because I'll allow myself that permission to explore where I want to go. And that's also what made me really, I guess, confident in what my intent is. Because if you think about it, we have so much, noise going on within our industry that we see so many different images and things that we love. But one thing that I have told myself over and over again is what I love is not necessarily what I am meant to create. And I think having those two distinct thought processes really help you understand who you are as a photographer. So again, let's go with intent. I'm going to share this image that I captured not too long ago. And my intent here specifically was two things. I wanted to capture that train in the background. This is something that is within Chicago. We have what's called L trains. So it's kind of like, it's like a public transit system, but it's like above ground. So I wanted that to be in my shot because it's very much Chicago related. But having that intent with people in the background, because I want my, and you'll find this is going to be an ongoing thing that I'm going to talk about, but I wanted to have the location just as important as the person as I'm photographing, but not overpower it. Now, do you see how busy all of that is? But the person that I'm photographing still stands out. Now, this is obviously a full body image, so let's just get, really kind of fine tune that. If you look at this particular picture, it's close up. What was my intent here? My intent was color. That was always my intent. So marrying that green with the color of her glasses was my goal, period. And knowing that was when I was able to create exactly what I wanted. I wish I had a behind the scenes of this, because when I tell you guys, this spot was horrible, horrible, horrible looking. It's like literally, she's literally like in the middle of just like a little bush in her backyard. So it's nothing elaborate. But when you have that intent, me knowing I can't show that entire background, I can crop it and get a nice cool headshot. No one knows where you're at. So having that intent ahead of time, capturing exactly what you want in camera really helps with the results that you want. Again, same thing. So I'm, really kind of breaking that down. And the funny thing is I'm going to, throughout this presentation, I'm going to really break this specific location down because it's one of my favorites. So we're going to, break that down. But again, having that intent. What was my intent here? Quite honestly, two things I love here are the light, first and foremost. And then two, I love leading lines, because leading lines brings the eye direct to the person that you are photographing. So that's always one of my goals. So let's discuss going from inspiration to intent. What I want you guys to do, and if you guys can remember, is when it comes to what's inspiring and what isn't inspiring, I think it's going to always vary. Sometimes it's going to always change. And I always tell photographers to write down what inspires you. It can be anything. It doesn't have to be photography related, but things about you will always resonate within your work. So I always tell people, write down what inspires you. So the things that inspire me are kind of strange, and I will really kind of tell you why they are, but I'm gonna break down the three things that inspires me. So I like to say I have what's called non-negotiables, and my non-negotiables are things I have to have at all times at a photo session in order for me to feel as if it is successful. Like if you've ever taken a picture and when you captured that picture, you knew it was perfect. You knew it instantly, right? Well, I'm not saying I feel that way with all my pictures. I wish I say that I did, but when I have my non-negotiables in place, I'm usually feeling that way more often than not. So I'm sure you're going to say to yourself, hey, Audrey, what are those non-negotiables? Now, before I tell you guys what my non-negotiables are, understand those are mine. And they really, they work well with my personality, which I have to take a little sip of coffee. So these are my non-negotiables: chaos, depth, light. Now, why do I like chaos? That's a strange thing to like. Why do you want that? And it's funny, I didn't realize I chose a picture of a bunch of teenage girls. That's not the chaos I'm talking about. The chaos that I'm actually talking about is more along the lines of what's going on in the background. But why do I like chaos? Well, the reason I like chaos is because I have 4 children, 4 boys. The younger 3 are a year apart. So my life was all about chaos. And what I wanted to find out, or what I ended up finding out, is that I like to make the people that I'm photographing stand out in an element of, chaos. And that could be people, that can be, things, whatever. But I like that. And that to me brings, and when you start looking, you guys really look at the images that I'm showing, you'll really now pick it up. The second thing, depth. I like depth behind my subject. Love it. Now, I obviously like it because of the way that it looks, but let's reel it in from a technical perspective. Because I photograph with really wide apertures, having that depth behind them allows my subject to kind of pop out, because behind them is nice, shallow depth of field. Now, I'm sure you guys are wondering to yourself, hey, Audrey, did you capture this one at f1.6? Yes, I did. Now, third thing, light. I have to have good light. And I've got a slide on this, so I'm not going to give you my little thought, my motto, but I'll give it to you in a minute. But I have to have good light. Always, always, always. So here's my motto. Light first, location second. Period. End of story. I care about good lighting before I care about what the location looks like. And because here's the thing, an image, a picture is not good unless you have good lighting. So if I'm chasing light first, that's going to knock out 50% of the process, right? But marrying that with my love of wide apertures, it makes my background look a little more forgiving. But that's my motto there. Light first, location second. So now let's break down those 3 non-negotiables. And my first one that I want to break down is chaos. So let's really kind of, explore, what that is. So standing out within chaos. And I'm glad that I have this image here, because it's not always about people, but it can be, different things, trees, anything of that nature. But really, having my subjects stand out within an element of chaos is part of my style. Now, what is my intent when I'm in that element of chaos? And I'm hoping I can get this to play. I should have thought about this. So start this over. I want to give you guys, I'm going to play a little video. And this is just kind of like giving you just a bird's eye view of what I see and where I'm going to place my subjects and what I'm looking for and why. So when I'm looking here, first thing I love is the lighting, okay? So I'm just going to kind of just go up. You see, I've got that filtered light that's coming directly from above. I'm going to stop it. Now I've got those buildings on either side. So that's casting lots of shadow, and it's blocking a lot of the ambient lighting coming from either side. So it gives me that filtered look. But when you kind of look at this scene, there's so much going on here. Like, how can you really, have someone stand out? What's most important to you? So I've got my lighting. Now I've got my chaos. Now I can bring in things that, are added bonuses, if you will. Leading lines. I love leading lines. And if I can get them, great. You can't always get leading lines in your images, but that's like an added bonus. Okay. So this is really giving you that, bird's eye view of what I see before I capture the picture. Now, when I place my subject here, now I'm going for my intent. My intent is to make them stand out. But I'm going to actually break this one down. We're going to deconstruct this one. And I chose this image on purpose because I could have shown a more full body picture, but I really wanted to show you guys this. I wanted you to see what would I do and what am I going for if I were to go, capture something close up. What's the intent here? Now, before I even get started, this image was captured at that very same spot that I showed you. It was captured around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It was it was like a partly cloudy day, so we had some sun. In terms of light, I did bring in a strobe. I had it at camera right, and I did a technique called feathering. And feathering, if you guys don't know, that's when I had the strobe, slightly angled off of the subject. So it's not pointing directly at them, it's pointing slightly off of them. So if you guys can, think about Photoshop, and they have a tool in there called gradient. So it kind of gives a gradient light onto the subject, and it's not so overpowering. Now, again, one more small little technical thing. When I am bringing in a strobe, I'm only going to bring in one. I'm not going to bring in multiples or anything like that. But my goal is always to marry or balance the ambient lighting with a strobe. It's never going to be one or the other. It's always balancing the two, with the ambient being the most important. That's always going to be the most important. So in theory, I'm thinking I really have two lights, ambient or the sun and the strobe. But I consider the strobe to be the second light, or as I like to joke, I call it a glorified reflector. So anyway, let's move it on. So let's break this down. So again, that filtered light coming from above, I knew that I would get beautiful, soft light along her hair. I knew that because that was the intent I was going for. Now, I want to mention something, but I don't think I need to go back to the video because I think you guys will remember it. One thing I look for, I should go back. Nah, you guys remember it. One thing I look for in regards to when I'm photographing downtown, I like light colored buildings. And if I were, beggars can't be choosers, but if I were to beg for a perfect situation, I like light colored buildings with like no color in them, gray, something that is something that's very monotone, if you will. I don't like a lot of splashes of color behind my subjects, if I can help it, by the way, if I can help it. So again, I got my filtered light from above, but if you, kind of look at the scene behind her, it's beautiful and cool toned. Again, that is what I'm going for when I'm choosing this particular location. And then, as I mentioned to you guys before, I've got those buildings on either side. Now, what would have happened if, let's say, the buildings on the left, I'm just going to throw that out there just for the sake of the conversation. Let's say the buildings on the left weren't as high, right? Let's say they were lower. What would my image look like? I would have some light spill on the side of her, hot spots, things of that nature. So having that intent of light first, I'm able to eliminate a lot of those things. And then bringing in my love of good, sharp, solid, fast glass, I'm gonna bring in my 85mm 1.4 lens. And now I can take that location that I showed you in the video and those, kind of cars and things in the background, those headlights, that all becomes beautiful bouquet. Beautiful. And depending on, what's behind her, I get, different colored lights, and it just aids in the image. Instead of taking away from it. Now, this one was captured. I told you kind of like a partly cloudy day, but what would it look like if it was bright and sunny? Same spot, bright sunny day, but now my background looks a little different because now I have different light to play with. But what I wanted to do here was I wanted to bring in my love of leading lines. Now, did I do that in the last session with the blonde girl? I did, but I'm just showing you guys different thought processes. So see how that brings the eye directly to who I'm photographing? But when you think about that video that I showed you, when you think about it, sometimes you're not really looking at those small details. And I love to tell people, small details, big impact. So this frees me up of having to look for perfect backgrounds, perfect locations. I can go in any sort of area and find some of these key things that are all part of my style and incorporate it into my image without making the background look so perfect. But to me, this is perfection. To other people, they'll say, well, it's a little busy. I don't know, this may not work. Let me find something a little bit cleaner, a little prettier. And let's talk about that really quick. Pretty. Part of my style is I don't want the person that I'm photographing, a client, to walk to a situation and think they can recreate it. I don't want them to be able to see, oh, it's a pretty flower bed, beautiful roses, this is going to look great. I want them to look at the area like, oh my God, why are we here? So then when they see that image, I instantly look better because they can't envision it. So same spot, but I wanted to kind of give you guys, a different view and how I'm able to kind of change things up, being in the exact same spot because my intentions never changed. But I'm able to change the look if I want. Now, this image I captured with all natural lighting, total all natural light. But do you see how my style hasn't changed? Regardless of the light that I used, being natural light or bringing in a strobe. See how it doesn't look any different because I knew what my intent was. I knew what I wanted to capture. I knew what I wanted in that specific location. Now, okay, I'm in Chicago, right? Of course, you're supposed to know what Chicago looks like. You're supposed to know the good spots in Chicago. Now, I'm going to tell you guys, I do travel, and I'm going to show you an image. This was captured in Philadelphia. And I'm able to get my same look at a place I've never been to. Now, what was my intent with this one? Well, of course, I've got my chaos in the background. And as a matter of fact, this is one of my favorites in terms of chaos because it's lots of chaos going on. But I'm able to get some leading lines on either side. But the light was what I was drawn to. So this particular spot, the headlights behind her framed her and gave me some really good rim lighting. Now, believe it or not, I'm using my 85mm 1.4 lens. So the people in cars behind her look a little closer than they actually are based on my distance to the person that I'm photographing. But again, the point of showing this particular image is to show you that I'm able to get my same look, same style, in an entirely different city that I've never been to. This was the first and so far the last time I have been to Philadelphia. I'll go back and mean it like that. But I'm able to get that same, look. Now, that red line, one thing I didn't mention is that I am a lover of eye contact, and I was able to, really hone in and get that my entire look in an entirely different location. Now, told you guys about depth, have to have the depth. And now you're seeing it's a consistent theme that having that depth behind my subjects helps with them standing out when there's lots of chaos. So you can see here, you're getting that same look. That's just crazy street lights, and we're on a sidewalk here, and the sidewalks in Chicago are fairly wide in certain areas, but this is kind of giving you, that thought process, if you will. Number one goal, make my subjects stand out. Make them stand out. And making them stand out with my three things, we go over them again: chaos, depth, light. Now we're going to talk about depth. So this image was captured in Denver, and we were on it's like in between, it's really wide area, and it's kind of like in between these, I don't know, stores, what have you. But again, depth, finding those tall buildings, whatever they are. Now, I don't have, those bright lights, big city look behind her, but that's not necessarily, I didn't say that had to be something in every image that I capture. It's just kind of like an added bonus. But here I have that depth. And just to do a quick recap on this, I did capture this with an 85mm 1.4 and f1.6 aperture, of course. But why did I choose this particular spot? Why? Buildings and having that light filtered from above. And having that light filtered from above, this was captured, I would say around like a 12 o'clock, if you will. I would say maybe about about a 12 o'clock. And that light was very, very high in the sky. And by having that light very, very high in the sky, I knew that I would get beautiful rim light. Excuse me. So having that goal of that beautiful rim lighting aided in me capturing the image that I want. So, if I were to just spew off camera settings and said, hey, I had my light positioned here, that almost wouldn't tell you too much about how to recreate it in your area, because your camera settings are not going to be the same as mine, because the camera settings are going to be determined based on the light that you're photographing it. But if you knew what my intent was, then you can recreate the shot. So I want to break this down before let me get a sip of coffee really fast. Now, I wanted to show you this one because this is one of my favorite areas in Chicago, and it's a video, and I'm gonna play it in just a second. But it's one most people will just pass by. they would pass by this 100% because it's just not pretty to the eye. But remember the things that I kept saying over and over and over again. I love the tall buildings and having that light on either side. See that? I love, the gray, buildings. And if you look at this, it's like, it's the most disgusting spot ever. Like, it's really, now it's easy to get clients there because they see the pictures that I create, but it's like not pretty. But you see, same thing. Light coming from above, beautiful. But now if you notice, it's a really bright, sunny day. You see that? But those buildings really block a lot of the light spill that will be on either side. So, okay, great. Told you guys this, I've said it a million times. I love having the buildings on the side, on either side. I love having the light filtered down from above. I use a wide aperture. And of course, that aids in blurring things out. But I want to break down and deconstruct an image. We're going to deconstruct this one. And actually, this was captured for the Nikon Z7 II campaign. And I want to show you guys this. And just imagine bringing Nikon, say, hey, we're going to photograph here. And it's just crap everywhere. But I wanted to show you this one because I could have made this look a little more shallow if I wanted to. And there's one small thing I forgot to say. I did say that all the images here I captured with an f1.6. This is the one that I did not. This was captured with an 85 millimeter 1.8 Z lens. So I captured this at an aperture of f1.8. Now, the reason I wanted to break this one down is because, like I said, I could have made this image look a bit more shallow than it does right here. I mean, it's nice and shallow where it's not, that big of a deal, but you still see a lot of the stuff in the background. Why on earth would I choose this? So, filter light coming from above, right? Already got that part out of the way. Got my leading lines and things of that nature. So we got all of that. But let me go back to this one. This image has what, and this is not a technical term, I don't think it is, but it has like what I like to call layered focus. Or it's so much stuff going on, but they're each on its own plane of focus. And that's one reason why I like this particular spot, because it's like she stands out even more because she's on one little layer. And I wish I had a little pointer, but I don't. If you guys look at camera right, the little garbage can, well, it's not little, but the garbage can at camera right with the orange lid, that's on its plane of focus. Then if you look at camera left, you've got the silver car. That silver car is on its plane of focus. So it's almost like it has this layered effect. And then if you bring your eye down to her shoes and look kind of, just like at the very bottom, you see how it's a little blurred there? So that's in the foreground, that's its own layer of focus. So it's almost like I'm layering and layering and layering, and that is done on purpose. That is my intent when I'm coming in this particular location, is getting that cool layered, and you can do it anywhere, by the way. I mean, I don't just do it here in the alley. I've done it, on beaches, forests. I do it a lot if I am in like a forest area, because I can kind of layer those trees. If there's, like a forest with a lot of trees, and I can layer them, kind of one behind the other, and it just has this really just cool effect. So I always tell people, don't be scared of things that are behind your subject. Just understand what your intent is and then create the shot. Now, a couple little added bonuses of why I love this one. Again, the gray buildings, it gives like that steel cool effect. I also like the fact that the train tracks are behind her. And sometimes people will say to themselves, oh, you got a line going through her head. And the thing is, this actually, with the trains going behind her, it like frames her with the building. So those rules that become, that people say you should not do, I'm able to do it. And having all of the things that, people say get rid of, like if you look at the sign, that red and white sign at camera left, people will say, oh, you should get rid of that. But it works in my picture because it's giving the viewer an idea of where she is. Now, keep in mind, my business name is Kids and the City. So do you see how all of that works? Having that intent and knowing your style is the key to standing out. So, and through that part, now, light, of course, light inspires, it should inspire, all of us, but light inspires me, and I started off as a, natural light photographer, and I didn't start to use strobes or any sort of created light really, I would say about 2 years ago. I was all ambient lighting for well over a decade. I started my career using one strobe, and then I instantly stopped because I felt that I couldn't be, free. And it was a long time ago, so we were plugging the strobes in the wall. So, but then I stopped. I went all ambient lighting. So this one here, just to let you know, this is captured with just ambient light. And this image was captured in that alley that I just showed you. This one here was captured here. See how different that looks? That wasn't the point of the slide, but I just really thought about it. Now, light inspires me. Totally inspires me. It is literally the number one thing that inspires me. I don't care if it is ambient or created. Now, remember when I told you guys earlier, I just want to mention this really, really quick. When I told you guys earlier that there are images that I love, and I know that I'm not meant to create them. I know that's not my calling. So some of the pictures that I love to look at are like studio pictures with 3-4 light setups. I love looking at that stuff, but I know I'm not meant to create that at all because of those 3 things that I mentioned to you earlier. Chaos, depth. I like going out into the field. That is what makes me me. That's what makes Audrey. And so understanding that helps me really cultivate what my style is. And I want you guys to really understand that and, embrace it. So went off on a tangent there. So let's talk about light and how that inspires me. So I'm going to show you guys another video of a spot here. This is one of my favorites. And again, completely gross, completely disgusting, but I love it. Love it, love it, love it. So again, stop it. Light coming from above, filtering down. See that? And with that light, I've got my light colored buildings, and that definitely aids with the ambient, but I've got, I'm under the little train, I keep saying it a little bit, I'm under the viaduct, and it just gives this cool, I'm gonna stop this here, just a cool effect. You got the garbage on the ground, people walking around, very, very old Chicago. And I love it. And just really quick to note, you see the little, street lamps at top camera left. You see how that's shining on the viaduct? So you've got those tungsten lighting and it's shining on something that's orangey, yellow. It gives us glowy look. I don't think I have an image. I think I showed you guys one earlier where I was able to pick up that effect in camera. But that's one thing I love over here. Second thing, obviously I love the texture and things like that, but I think that part's obvious. Now, if you look, see if I can get it better. All right. See here, this car here at camera left. So do you see how you've got all these little specular highlights? And if you see this car right here that's driving towards it, all of it's shining on the car. I want you guys to keep that part in mind, okay? You get those little specular highlights, just kind of those reflections all on the car. And you can even see it on the car that just pulled up. You see that? Now, just to show you guys too, over on this side, lots of ambient lighting, coming from that side. So I've got a nice, good spot to play with. That's what I get. with the intent, those specular highlights become beautiful bokeh. And that's just coming from parked cars. Literally coming from parked cars. And it frames her. Now, this is what this would look like if I were to just, back up and you guys get that, I'm able to get that more full body, but I'm able to use my surroundings to frame her, such as that car, camera left. So do you see how all of that adds, to the intent and why I'm there? So there's another one, same spot, but I decided that I didn't want to have, I like to get a variety, so I can't get every, shot in the same spot. So if I move down a little bit away from those parked cars, then I can get an entirely, different look. Light coming from the side. And, let me tell you this real fast. That was captured with a strobe. Strobe is at camera left. But if you look at this one, same area, but this was captured with just ambient lighting. So I'm hoping that this gave you guys, a thought on how to just approach what you guys are going to do, when you're getting ready to snap that shutter, help you, take a step back. What's your intent? And in terms of finding that style, I'm going to leave you guys with one thought. If you don't know how to find your style and it just doesn't make sense, I'm going to give you guys a little quick exercise. Find, 3 or 4 magazines that you love. Go buy, it doesn't matter what they are, it doesn't even matter, but just 3 or 4 that you like. Bring them home, flip through them, and take 1 or 2 pictures out that you wish you would have taken. Just take them out, tear them out, set it to the side. Put all of those images together and lay them out, and then look at what is similar about them. This will help you hone into what you love without having the name of a photographer attached to it or anything like that. They're just different images, different places. They don't have anything to do with each other, but you will find something similar about each and every one of them. And whatever those things are, help you discover what your non-negotiables are, help you discover what your style is. And then more importantly, marry those 2 together and you will know what your intent is, and you can create beautiful images consistently each and every time. My name is Audrey Woulard, and thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much for all of that, Audrey. We've been answering a few questions in the chat, of course, as we've gone through this. And again, it's just so great to see the work. We've had some questions about lighting.
Sure.
One of the questions that we kind of started with was, are the subjects really in the middle of the street? So maybe could you talk through a little bit of how you achieve that? Like, do you need permits? Kind of a quick overview of that would be really amazing.
So in Chicago, you do have to have a permit, one that you have to pay a lot for. So they're actually behind me. It's usually a police escort. Their car is there. And sometimes it's like a stretch, and it's usually 2 or 3 photographers there, believe it or not. Sometimes they are behind my subjects, and I'm able to angle and create the composition where you can't even see them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. So yeah, if you're interested in doing this kind of work in your own city, check into permits. I know in Seattle, if you're going to put a light stand down on the ground, you've got to have a film permit to do that. Now, if you have an assistant who could hold that light, you can maybe get away with that, but I didn't say that. I know this is on the internet, but I didn't say that. Shh, don't listen to me. But we do that a lot. And so I know this is a Nikon presentation, but let's super quick just talk about the lighting. I know you use Profoto gear. Are you using like a B10 and maybe like the 2-foot Octa or OCF beauty dish? What's kind of your location kit?
So just a B10, and the modifier that I would use is the 2-foot Octabox. So it's double diffuse, gives lots of diffuse lighting. So that's the lighting kit. That's
yeah.
it.
Awesome. I guessed it. I told Devin here in the studio, I was like, I bet that's the 2-foot octa.
You're right.
And then I was like, nailed it. Awesome. Okay, great.
If I could just add one more small thing, you can take a speed light, because I take, because I'm in like busier situations with the B10, I'm able to, have someone hold it, but you can take a speed light and then have that person angle it up and towards your subject. You get the same effect.
Yeah. Yeah. So any kind of smaller light source, hold it up. If you can diffuse it, that's great because it will give you that softer look, but so many great options there. One more quick question and then I think we'll wrap this up unless you guys have more questions for us. So ahead of a session, do you take the opportunity to kind of plan? It sounds like you probably would. Like, do you do mood boards to work with your clients? How do you direct them for wardrobe and that kind of thing?
I don't plan.
Oh, okay.
What was that first thing I said? I like chaos. I love the chaos. I like the spontaneity of not knowing what someone is going to do, show up in. How do I figure it out? That keeps me on my toes because after 17 years, you can get a little bored. When it comes down to, I guess attracting a more, I don't know if this is the word, but sometimes I think this is where people, because I get this question a lot, a more fashion forward client, that's marketing. So, what you show is what you attract. So I don't show anything that I don't want to attract. So that's it. And that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, no, and that's a great lesson, as people are trying to dial in, what kind of clients do I want? What kind of work do I want to be hired for? That's the work you want to be sharing on your social channels and have on your website for sure. All right. Well, and Devin he's watched your Pro Photo Academy video and he was like, now I recognize her voice and the photos, like it all came together for him. So, and as I mentioned at the very beginning, we were excited to have you on for this. I've been in some of your Clubhouse chats over the pandemic time. And it's fun to see you in person here, even though we're on the internet. So I just love to take a moment to say thank you for your time and all of that great information. And obviously, thank you to Joel and Paul Van Allen, who've been hanging out with us in the chat room and are also on the line here. We truly appreciate the opportunity to have you on and representing Nikon so very well.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're going to let everybody go for now. We have 4 more live presentations today. We have 2 photo walks today. So if you're in Seattle, you might be able to crash my photo walk tonight, maybe. We'll see. I might open it up a little bit. Anyhow, thank you, Audrey. Thank you, Joel and Paul. And thank you to all of you tuning in today. We're going to be back live at 10:30 with Tracy Page, who is a Zeiss ambassador, and she's going to be doing a live shoot, so don't miss that. All right. Thank you again, everybody. We will see you soon.